There's an old Russian proverb, the morning is wiser than the evening, and I think it's something that we could really live by a lot more in this day and age when a hastily written email post-Peroni in the pub late one evening can betray the sentiments of the wiser and older you that you wake up to be in the morning. The reason I bring this up is, unless you're Scott Bradley, there are three certainties that we all face as media composers: death, taxes and notes. And how we deal with these calamitous critiques of our craft is really the key to successful collaborative relationships and enterprise. The elusive strategy I always strive for is one that is known as restraint of tongue and pen. Now, the reason why I bring this up today is actually I'm on an amazing project where the collaborative process has been absolutely brilliant, getting great notes in a timely fashion, just the kind of information I need, with the kind of encouragement that I think is really important for us with our artistic sensibilities. But it's not always this way. I think that every single one of us, on every job, at some point someone will say, listen, I'm sorry, I don't have the musical vocabulary. And we're always like, oh, don't worry, even if you just say, it's a colour or something like that, that'll be fine. But do we really mean that? Do we, in the heat of battle, want directors to be saying to us, this score's sounding a bit brown? No, I think we're far more demanding than that. We want the directors to perfectly tread the line between giving us no notes whatsoever, as if we've somehow kind of by osmosis got inside their heads and delivered them the perfect score, and being very specific about emotionally what we're failing to do. God forbid they ever give us instructions which have theoretical or technical terminology. So you want your score, the whole thing, to be Saul Pont. What are you talking about, you knobhead? So you want us to carpet the floor of the studio so that it can soak up the reverb? Pillock. And this is what directors have to put up with. They have a feeling that we are actually laughing at them behind their backs. Hello.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good.
Very good.
Good to see you. How you been?
Very good indeed. And this is what directors are having to contend with, us tricky buggers, expecting them to understand how to communicate with us really kind of changing the shit up in their films, and possibly laughing at them behind their backs. And, don't say that you've never been down to the pub and talked about, that time, what was the one director said to me, I want them to play Sul Tasticello. Can you imagine a British musician kind of responding to that? Or there was the guy who I thought was being abstract by saying, I want the score to be much more Brechtian. But all he wanted was it to sound like Kurt Weill. I don't know, it's like describing 1930s British music as Orwellian. And then there was the producer who spent an entire production cycle complaining about the amount of reverb we were using. And it wasn't until after the dub that I realised she was actually referring to a tremolo pedal that I had on the guitar. So as a consequence, the score sounded like... Okay. Okay. That's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Of course, directors and people giving notes can be total cocks too. I've learned to really dread the emails that come in after midnight. I've always imagined that at the end of the post-production process, it's really tough. You've got the directors finishing the edit and doing pathetic little shaving offs of frames for stroppy execs. Then they've got to go and have a look at the grade and it looks terrible. And then they've got to do ADR with stroppy actors who wish they'd just recorded it right in the first place. They get home, inhale a bottle of wine, and then they set to listening to your cues, which you've sent on a QuickTime with a codec that makes their film look like a 1970s sitcom. And you've made music that is completely different from the American Beauty tracks they've tempted it with. I've opened emails with paragraphs that read, Christian, I thought you had a good taste in music. Why have you checked it in at the door for my show? I've had people go, this is just not working, total disaster, only to find out later that they only watched the first few bars of the first cue. So it is a really stressful kind of situation receiving notes, particularly under these kind of, as the clock is ticking and they're running out of money and they're running out of time. I know of an Oscar-winning producer who bans anyone from writing email notes to other people because it is this strange black and white medium where you cannot convey any nuance. But possibly one thing is worse than the post-midnight email, and that's no email at all, and indeed no returned calls the next day. Let's face it, us media composers are fired all the time, so it's not surprising that we approach notes with a degree of reticence. Some people claim not to mind notes as much. I don't know if I completely buy into that. I would really like your feedback. Do notes do your head in? How do you respond to them? I guess it's a sliding scale of people from like Scott Bradley, who famously refused to accept notes, to someone like Stanley Myers, who anecdotally said he didn't really mind them. I think there's 3 different types of notes that bother us in different ways. One is the kind of notes where you've taken something out of the nebula. You don't know where it's come from. It's like a gift from the gods, and they reject it. And that really kind of impacts on your confidence, because you feel, I have nothing more to give. That came out of the magic in the sky. The second is when you attach your ego to something that you're very confident is good. It's a great sound, or it's a really good theme, or a great chord sequence, and then they reject it. And what that impacts is on your confidence in them. So suddenly the relationship is soured a little bit, because you're like, well, you rejected that and that was awesome. And the third is more on a kind of pragmatic HOD level, and that is, you're the head chef. Prepared an amazing service. It's an amazing team, crew assembled. We've got a menu of the finest, kind of most balanced ingredients, and the mise en place is prepared, and along come the fucking customers to destroy our day. There we go. So, fuck, look at this. This is looking great.
First and second.
I think there's always those notes that injure one's superego as well. The cues that you have sent off, knowing that they're not right, and when the notes come in telling you they're not right, your superego is telling you, why did you send that cue off if you knew it was a duffer? Why do you think some notes really kind of get to you and kind of tear you up, and why some notes don't? I'd be really interested to see what other people think about this. And after 25 years of composing, do notes get to me? Yeah, I mean, they still hurt just as much as they did, 25 years ago. But I think I have coping mechanisms now in place, so I don't curl up into a little ball and want to die. I find that I think the thing I have to really resist is an urge to go, I've been doing this for 25 years, please don't tell me what to do, or fuck off, we're orchestrating. I've become a little bit more of an internal Gordon Ramsay, and that's something I have to manage. I guess what we've got to do is take our composer capes off and put them into the velvet lined composer cape chest, put on our HOD caps, roll up our sleeves, and deal with the challenges of getting these things right for the picture, for the client, really embracing the fact that we're great problem solvers. Little bit hungover, went to a PRS dinner with a bunch of media composers last night, and we can drink, so I'm feeling a little bit worse for wear. Also, just a brief pause. I bought this camera because my GH5 is at the doctor's, and I was getting sick of using my mobile phone with this gimbal thing, and this camera is shit. I also broke my mic midway through this monologue, so basically I apologise for the production values on this particular film. It's a bit shit. I guess it's not just how you deal with the notes, it's how you consume them. And there's basically a strategy that people who issue notes tend to employ, and that is what's referred to as a shit sandwich. So they'll give you pleasantries at the top, a bunch of notes in the middle, or shit or crap, and then at the bottom they'll say, something nice as well, to just kind of make you feel nice. So you've got a kind of brioche bun around a bunch of work and criticisms of your craft. I actually would recommend avoiding the brioche bun and just going protein style straight for the shit, because actually what tends to happen in the pleasantries is a single word can really throw you off. So it's like, comments like, there's some really great work in here, and you're like, but this is the finished score. Where's the sum? Great work. What bits is the good work, and why is most of it terrible? And then there's also, this is a great start, and it's like, but we're recording the orchestra tomorrow. This isn't a start. So I recommend avoiding the pleasantries and just putting your head of department hat on and going straight in for the shit patty in the middle. How we respond to these notes is absolutely crucial. Now, often the desire is to send a kind of ranty email going, I don't have time for this shit, and I thought this was already approved. At which point you'll probably spend the next 12 hours worrying whether you're going to be fired or will ever work with this director and producer again. I think it's far better to remain taciturn, to hold it, and to use those next 12 hours to actually think about how you can action the points that they have detailed in the shit patty. This is where the restraint of tongue and pen idea comes in, which was coined by Susan Pease Gadua, who, on her piece Contemplating Divorce. Now, I think this isn't about me getting divorced. This is just it applies to any kind of relationship. And what she says is, responding to a situation is always better than reacting to it. When we react to anything, it is usually with the first thought, word, or action that comes into our mind to retaliate with. If we are hurt, we often try to hurt back. If we are angry, we want to lash out in response. If we are left out, we want to reject those who have left us out. When things are said or done that hurt you, know that you do not have to respond immediately. You can sleep on most matters. When you wake up in the morning, you are likely to have a better perspective, be less emotional, and you may have even thought through what you're likely to say or how to handle the situation in a way that will be more productive than the first response may have been. I'm drunk, my top end away. This is extraordinary. Fuck. I first became aware of film composition as an actual job when Queen did the score for Flash Gordon. I was probably about 7 or 8 years old, and thanks very much. And the reason why it kind of stuck with me was I remember Roger Taylor being interviewed on Capital Radio, and I remember him saying how much he hated being given notes by people who were outside of the band Queen. So I knew from that day forth that notes were part of what being a film composer is. So I guess becoming a media composer and not being kindly to notes is the equivalent of becoming a commercial airline pilot but refusing to fly through clouds. So I guess what I'm trying to say is sit back, enjoy your Peroni, and if you want to say something, say it tomorrow, but I bet you won't.